Hi YouTube and welcome back to a new video. It's Remarks or MROX, and today I'm going to be watching a video by Let's Gang titled The Dramatic World of Total Drama Fan Series. Make sure to go subscribe to them, leave a like, and yeah, let's just dive on in. I'm a big fan of Total Drama, of course. Just letting you guys know that before going in, so that's why I'm reacting to it. And I'm interested to learn more about new fan series that are up and coming. I've watched Adventure Camp, but that's really the only one that I'm keeping up with currently. Uh, but yeah, and I wouldn't count any object show in that though. I do watch a lot of object shows, but they're not total drama fan series.
Total Drama. If you're familiar with my channel, then you already know what this show is and that I'm
Yep,
obsessed with it. And I've been obsessed with it since... Okay, hang on, let me do the...
I've been obsessed with total drama ever since I was like 7 years old. 6 or 7. Like I've been watching this show for a long time. It literally came out the year I was born in 2007. So yeah. My favorite season is World Tour. And yeah, I've watched every season like so many times. But yeah,
math. Okay, I watched Total Drama before my FNAF phase. FNAF came out in 2014. Yeah, since I was 10 years old. That is the majority of my lifetime ago. And as you can probably
that's
guess, when
crazy.
you're that hyper-fixated on a series, you go out of your way to find as much fan content as you can. And you best believe I did. The fandom pre-Disventure Camp was the wild flippin' west. Actually animated and somewhat professionally produced series like Disventure Camp were
Was not a
incredibly
thing.
rare. You had
Yeah.
object shows like Battle for Dream Island and Inanimate
Yeah, but
Insanity,
that's
but
not
I
the
think
same
by now we
thing.
can all agree that the OSC is basically its own thing. It's
Yeah.
a whole different ballgame, so unfortunately I won't be discussing any object shows in
Really,
this
the only
video,
link
but
between it
if this
is
video does well, I
competition,
will
you
make a
know.
follow-up that will cover them in more detail. For the time being though, we're gonna talk about some
Yes, that's gang. Please make more videos about object shows like Inanimate Insanity BFDI. Uh, but yeah, I would love that.
3D inspired series, new and old, that can't really fill a video by themselves. Starting with some of the ones that you all recommended to me.
Of all people, why pick on me?
Prior to doing research for this video, the only thing I knew about Revolution Island was that it spawned this
I've
clip.
never heard of this.
What a beautiful day it is today!
And I never really thought about the series beyond that. But after seeing it suggested in my community tab and realizing that there were only 5 episodes to watch, I figured this would make for a
That was
relatively
funny voice
straightforward
acting.
viewing experience. It was not. On an objective
Uh-oh.
level, Revolution Island is obviously nowhere near the level of projects like Disventure Camp or Reality Resort, so if you want something on that level, Revolution Island is not what you're looking for. But given that this was likely made by a very small team, holding it to those standards would not be fair. So I think
Yeah.
it's better if we judge this series for what it is, and what it is bizarre. Having watched the original TDI, without exaggeration, at least 20 times over, I can confidently point out pretty much everything that Revolution Island tries to emulate from it. But the way the episodes are presented, everything's just a little bit off. If you've ever seen Miracle Star or like SpongeBob into
Amazing Really
Ron, that's
Gumball.
kind of the feeling that this one
Oh,
gives off. And I'm
yeah.
not trying to say that Revolution Island is a bootleg like
So
either of
poorly
those
made.
two, but it's so similar to what it's based on, but just different enough so that it's really weird, like a kind of uncanny valley feeling. On a technical level,
An
there's a
uncanny
lot to be
valley.
desired
I
here.
love
The
that.
animation isn't perfect, there's a couple errors here and there, but for the most part, it's fine. But as for the writing and
The
voice
character
acting,
designs
those
are
issues
pretty
stand out
simple.
a lot more. I think the biggest issue is probably the script, because sometimes the characters will start talking, and the dialogue will make no goddamn sense.
Okay, I know. I threw the topic off the chart, but I need to know more.
The
What
topic
guys
off the chart.
capable of?
That's so weird.
Not that he's high and I like him. Never mind that. You didn't hear anything.
Maybe the writer has English as a second language, and if
That's true. That's a good point. The thing is, this was created by a small team, and Disventure Camp. If they did that with the new like upcoming remake of season 2, and the writing was like that, the team is big enough. There's money going in. There's money going out. They should be held to a standard. But with this, I really don't think so. But I do think that critiquing it, or but like not in like a mean way, but like an actual like productive way is a good thing because I feel like it encourages and supports the making of Total Drama fan series because Total Drama is awesome and it shaped loads of our childhoods. So yeah.
That is the case, then I do apologize for being harsh. But I think a lot of this dialogue probably should have gone through a few revisions before release. Now, so far I've mostly been criticizing the series, and that is primarily because it's not very good. But that doesn't mean the series has nothing to offer. There's a couple aspects of Revolution Island that are so absurd that they absolutely deserve
See, that character looked like Heather a little bit.
offer.
You could
There's a
tell they're
couple
basing
aspects
it
of
off of
Revolution Island that are
previous
so
characters.
absurd that they absolutely deserve a mention here.
Yeah, humor is subjective, but when your humor is good and like everything else is not that great, that means that you're onto something. And so
First and foremost, we gotta talk about Raymond. Pretty much everyone in this cast has a fairly monotone vocal delivery, but for some reason Raymond is constantly screaming like Black Suit Spider-Man.
Yes, I got him! Sophia, did you see?
His VA is clearly very passionate about the character, and I do give him props for that. I
I love that.
hesitate to call it a good vocal performance because, quite frankly, after 4 episodes, it did start to get on my nerves, but I would be lying if I said that I didn't find him at least a little bit endearing. You've also got characters like Ralph, and if I can be honest for a moment, Ralph is so goddamn annoying. He's not
Who
funny, and he
is
sounds like
this?
Monokuma with laryngitis. I bring him up, though, because in episode 1, he is literally 2 feet tall, and his skin is constantly changing color, which is something I can honestly say that I've never seen anywhere else, so I thought it deserved a mention. My favorite character,
How
though, would
creative.
have to be Ace, because
I doubt that it's intentional, but if it is, interesting choice.
he both looks and acts like Tom Disventure Camp and Ezekiel's love child. He's clearly intended
Oh.
to be this mysterious guy who's athletic, cunning, and a master of strategy. The type of guy who
Okay, guys, this is just Heather with recolor. Like, I'm sorry. Like a shirt. Yeah. The hat, it's clipping. Why is it clipping? Yeah. It's okay though. They're learning. Not like I could do any better, you know. So I support. I support.
isn't here to make friends and is always one step ahead of the competition. But in practice, he comes off as a total
I like Tom season 1 more than Tom season 3, so I think they're replicating Tom season 1. I would rather them replicate that. Tom season 3 is so annoying.
edgelord with like
And Disventure
negative
Camp, by the
social
way.
awareness. My favorite example of this happens in episode 5. Let me quickly set the stage for you. This girl, Jessica, is really suspicious of Ace because she saw him sneaking around the girl's cabin. And when confronted about it, he just completely blows her off.
Mind telling me what you were doing sneaking outside of my cabin?
Oh, the animation's kind of nice
That's none
there.
of your concerns. Don't be snooping around my business.
What do you mean none of her business? You should not have been there. And he did it in the middle of the night. If this was a normal summer
That's the
camp,
most
you know
creepiest
they
way
would
to
have called
do
his parents
anything.
already. And I didn't know where to put this last part, but the first elimination is so funny. The challenge is basically knock your opponent off the platform. And Team Captain Emily, funny. The
Why is this
challenge
person's
basically
hair the
knock
same
your
color
opponent
as the
off the
shirt?
platform. And Team Captain Emily is very insistent that fucking Ralph go first.
Why?
For
It's a
some
child.
reason. Like, this is the
I don't
same
know if they're
team
a
that has
child, actually.
goddamn Hank the Tank on it. But Emily's just like, nah. The human Goomba is gonna get us a point. Ace later suggests that her plan was to throw the challenge and get Ralph voted out, which, like, if that was actually the case, then that might be the most baffling strategy in any TD-inspired show that I've ever seen. She's the team captain. She chose him to be on her team. He wasn't even last pick. He was like 7th to last. She had options. She could have just not picked him. Also, this is literally the first challenge. Why are you already trying to throw? My personal headcanon
Yeah.
is that between episodes 1 and 2, Ralph annoyed Emily so much that she was willing to throw the first challenge just to get rid of him. And I don't blame her. If I have to spend another moment listening to Ralph talking about his fucking quarter, I'm going to stomp on his head and kill him. But if there's anything that I can give Revolution,
I'd have to watch to know what Let's Gang is talking about, but through their, like enthusiasm, or not enthusiasm, but aggravation, is that a word? I can tell that this is definitely something that they're passionate about. So I love that.
Island credit for, it's that the quality noticeably improves with every episode.
Oh my gosh, who's this character? They look so cute.
Episode 5 is a significant improvement over Episode 1, and I think it's nice to see a series progress that way. Now,
That's
to my
great.
knowledge, Revolution Island is currently being remade/rebooted, and I think that's the right call.
Yeah, not with Chris. You know how that goes. Sigh.
The original was a good first attempt at a series, but now that the team is more experienced, I think things
This Venture Camp was so lucky that they didn't do just like Chris, and they did like Chris's daughter for like the first season. Did they? Or did they do Chris? No, they did Chris, right? No, sorry guys, never mind.
will be better on the second go around.
But still, they're very lucky to have gotten through that and squeaked by that. And now it's succeeding. They're on season 4, so
Revolution Island isn't great, but there was clearly a lot of heart put into it, and I think there's a lot of ironic charm that makes these episodes enjoyable in their own way. I doubt I could stomach a full season like this, but just for 5 episodes, it's not a bad time. Also, this guy is literally just Dan, and I think that's hilarious. Actually,
Dan
not
with
yet. I still have more to say
Ezekiel's-
about Revolution Island. Originally, I was going to end the segment there, but between writing the script and
Hear
now,
me.
the first episode of the rebooted Revolution Island actually came out.
Hear me out.
So I should probably watch
Wait, these
that.
designs are
Rebooted
already better. Look, the girl with the hat is actually the hat's like actually on her head and not clipping through her hair. Also, is this a child, guys? Tell me if this is a child down below, because I have no idea. Also, Duncan bad boy, but weirder. Friends. Wait, where's the guy at? There he is. Interesting, bro. This better not be another Mike and Zoe. I haven't even watched the show. Maybe I will. Is that another child? Why is there 2 children? Is that a child? I'm so confused. Also, this looks like interesting, but she looks interesting too. Honestly, I think I'm gonna root for him. Also, she seems annoying. She seems like a Carol. Wait, no. Is that her name yet in Disventure Camp season 2? Also, isn't she getting recast too in the remake? Anyway,
Revolution Island actually came out. So I should probably watch that.
possibly.
Oh, look, a free iPad.
It's
Go tell me,
definitely
Let's
an
Gang.
improvement over the original. The
Whoa.
animation is significantly better, although maybe a little
Lighting.
too bouncy at times. It looks like the characters are made of rubber. But it's still good, and the backgrounds are a lot better as well. Raymond's VA definitely
I low-key love bouncy animation. There was a time where Disventure Camp like had like in season 3 or something, I think. Yeah, I think it was like when season 3 started like, running and like airing, uploading to YouTube. Um the animation was like so bouncy and I'm like I kind of love that style. But I know it's not for everyone. It can get really annoying. But I think it's great for edits. Just as like an editor barely, but like yeah.
improved a lot of his lines, and I think that was probably the right call. His dialogue is genuinely entertaining. I wish he'd toned down his enthusiasm by like 20%, because he is a lot. He's still the most standout character in the cast though, so take that as you will. The new host
Yeah, I'll
seemed
look
pretty
out for him.
decent. I like the blonde
red
one
hair
more than I
guy.
like Derek, so that's something. I
I
don't really
hate
have much
Derek.
to say on these guys, but
I
am
hate
glad that they
Derek
were
Disventure Camp, and I hate Trevor Disventure Camp, but not as much as I hate Derek Disventure Camp. I hate uh Derek, whatever his last name. Trevor McGregor is better. Even though he's still really bad because he supports Derek, and I'm like, hello, Emily is literally dying, and you're like, okay, and like they're giving Emily a redemption arc when really it should be Derek and Trevor getting redemption arc, but not even because they've already done that, so it would be redundant to do it twice. They're just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna let this girl like break all her limbs. I'm like, oh, okay. Also, I still think it's really annoying that Yule didn't like keep his like burn uh at the end of season 3. I think that was so stupid. And Odd Nation was like, well, it's cartoon logic. But then why does Emily have a cast on in season 4? It's so stupid. But I'm glad they at least kept Emily. Emily's an interesting character to me, even though I don't think Liz King likes her. But yeah, sorry, this is not about Disventure Camp.
place Chris.
Sorry,
Clearly
guys.
this reboot is trying to stray away from total drama and find its own identity, and I think these guys will really help with that. And yeah, that's about it. I think it's better than the original, and I'm happy
Awesome.
to see how it's improved, but I
I
personally
might need to
think
watch it
it's
on the
just
channel.
okay, and I probably won't be following this one. But maybe Revolution Island might be up your alley, and if my review has you interested, I'd recommend giving it a look.
Million Game Academy. Haven't heard of this one either.
The Million Game Academy.
Ooh, I
This
can
one's
already
been
tell
on
these
my
designs
radar
are
for a while
interesting.
because it seems people really like this one. I was getting requests to talk about this one since it came out, basically, so I
Wait, this guy's actually really cool. I like him.
knew I'd
Even though
have
he's
to bring it
smug
up in this
as
video.
heck.
I finally sat down to watch the episode in preparation for this video, and after thorough deliberation, I've come to the
Tell us how
conclusion
it
that I
is.
feel absolutely nothing towards it. Granted, I have been watching animated reality shows in this vein for the majority of my time on Earth, so you might get more mileage from this show than I do. But for the most part, I just didn't click with this one, and I left feeling underwhelmed. Now that being said, I do recognize
Unfortunate.
Million Game Academy's strengths, namely those in the visual department. I fucking love the way this show looks. On a technical level, this is the total drama art style, but the character designs and backgrounds are stylized in such a way that it really stands out. The island of Rosewood looks absolutely gorgeous. The beach looks good, the forest looks good, the academy building
I
looks
wouldn't
really
say
good,
the style
and
is
altogether they
original,
form one of the nicest locations I've ever
but
seen in a show like this. Dare I say, I like the look of
it's the
Rosewood
best
more than
fan
Stawaki
animation.
Carnival and Paradise. I want to jump into the screen and just exist in this world for a little while. God damn, why can't real life look this good? It's not fair. If everything else in this episode was as good as the art, then I'd be singing an entirely different tune, but alas,
Oh my
this is where
gosh.
things start to go downhill. The character designs for the most part are
They have an
pretty
intro, it
solid.
seems.
Most of the characters look fine, and a handful look really good.
Who is this emo? Okay.
But by that same metric, however, you've also got Eddie, who looks like the Crimson Chin. You've also got this Killua-looking motherfucker, and then just straight up Marco Diaz and Star Butterfly. There's
That's
nothing wrong with
literally
taking
Marco and
inspiration
Star.
from other IPs, but much like the actual Star Versus, there's basically no subtlety here. But from my perspective, the biggest issue with MGA is definitely its writing. Aside from the host and Veronica, who has a character concept that I can absolutely get behind, none of the cast stands out to me as interesting or noteworthy.
Hey guys, it's the next day. I had to quit recording because my family had to do some stuff, but I'm back, so let's just get to it.
Is definitely its writing. Aside from the host and Veronica, who has a character concept that I can absolutely get behind, none of the cast stands out to me as interesting or noteworthy. Like, I don't mean to keep picking on my man Eddie here, but I have no idea what his deal is supposed to be besides looking and sounding like a creepy weirdo. And even then, some of the more prevalent characters
Yeah, characters like that are not like are not cool. Like I don't get why people make creepy characters if their thing is just to be called creepy. Like give us like a story arc or something. Don't just like make them get creepy and like eliminate them, you know?
such as Floor and Augustine don't stand out for good reasons. Floor is basically like if you took Island Beth and Roti Stacy and then fused them into one character. And
Hate
if that
that.
sounds like it would be annoying, yeah, you can definitely write a character like this and write them well, but pretty much everything about Floor's presentation seems designed to annoy the audience, which is fine if she's going to be an early boot, but given how much
Not good
screen
for a
time
whole
she has,
season,
I
like
kinda doubt that. As for Augustine, she's this show's designated mean girl diva, and at first glance, she's honestly pretty good in that role. I really like her design, and while her scenes aren't mind-blowing, I
yeah, the designs are unique, I would have to say that. Also this girl is giving stoner vibes, this character.
still think they work. All in all, I thought Augustine was pretty charming. Or, you know, I did, and then she dropped a slur, and that sort of changed things.
What'd she say? Did she say a racial slur? Augustine, you can't be saying that. But more to the creators, don't do that. If it's like that's just not cool.
I'm not gonna dwell on this too much because I don't think it's worth harping on about a situation that's long since been resolved, but I really can't talk about this episode without bringing it up. There was, at one point in time, a moment in the episode where Augustine calls Paloma, this stoner character, the R slur, which is a big
Oh,
fucking yikes, and basically the only thing I knew about the
that's
episode
still bad.
before I watched it.
Still very
Now, it
bad.
is worth noting that Hey Cato Productions, which is the crew behind Million Game Academy, is a Spanish production, and they have gone on to state that they didn't understand how severe the word was in English, which is why they quickly removed it from the episode and gave an apology shortly thereafter. While I do believe Hey
It's giving when Odd Nation apologizes for something.
Cato had no ill intent while writing their script and that their immediate response and correction was handled well, how did none of the English translators catch that? I'm willing to chalk this up to an inexperienced team making a mistake because I do genuinely believe that's what happened. The team knows
I'm guessing that the English speakers realized but like didn't want to like push back on it which I would say something. I'd be like, "Oh, is this for the character?" Because I'm not going to say this, you know? Like, um, yeah, I just wouldn't say it.
Better now, and I doubt they're going to make the same mistake again. Believe me, when I was younger, I made a very similar error. At the end of the day, they did remove the slur, and I always want to give credit to people who recognize and fix their mistakes,
That's
even
good.
if I myself still have a bit of a sour taste from the original episode. But that's a problem that can and has been easily fixed. The characters and the writing, not so much.
I
I
like the
understand why
animation.
people like this one, but
It's
I'm
really
probably
good.
not going to watch any more episodes. The art in Veronica may be gorgeous, but unless everything else drastically improves by the next episode, I don't think I have much interest in Million Game Academy. But your tastes might be different than mine, and if this sounds like a show you might be interested in, then by all means, go nuts. But as for me, I'm gonna pass.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier.
Clash,
Welcome to.
You know
Clash
that
Island
one
is
meme of
funny. I like
Markiplier where
it.
he's edited to look
I've
like
watched
Chris
this.
McClane? Well, that's a show now. Clash Island is essentially total drama, but instead of a bunch of randos, it's your favorite internet personalities.
Yep.
And XQC. This series comes courtesy of Chester801, aka Jesse
I think they're
Ilg,
remaking
who,
it,
if you
right?
don't know, has actually been a part of the Total Drama
Lots of
community
remakes.
for quite some time. He's also the creator of Osuke Island, and if you've seen Osuke Island, then you probably know exactly what you're getting into with Clash Island. I'm honestly just baffled that this one exists. Like, this feels like it should have been released about a decade ago with no budget, and yet here we are. The year of our Lord, 2025, and fucking Moist Critical is sending Meat Canyon into the goddamn stratosphere with a rocket-powered
That was pretty
golf
cool.
club.
I like
The
that.
absurdity of that sentence also permeates the entire show, and is probably the best thing about it. That, and the animation, which I believe was mostly handled by Jesse Ilg himself. He's a seriously talented animator. I'm pretty sure he worked on Rick and Morty at one point. But more importantly, this is
Awesome.
the series where Markiplier canonically shares a screen with Carter McQuaw, whose name I have no idea how to spell. Let's talk about the YouTubers. So I actually know most of these creators.
I do not
even
know
if only
most of
partially
these.
in
I know
some
a few,
cases,
though.
And from what I can tell, everyone is mostly
I know that's Moist Critical, that's Me Canyon, that's Jaden. But I don't know any of these other guys. I couldn't like remember their names. If I just watched it, I probably could, but I don't know their names off the
in
top of my
line with
head.
their real-life counterparts. Moist Critical is easily the best in this regard. Not only does
He's
his
very
VA nail his
noticeable.
inflections, but the dialogue is pretty much dead on.
There was more shit talk going on there than an old COD lobby on Xbox Live.
It's not
Only thing
perfect,
missing
but,
is
you
the
know,
sound of some
I don't
kid's
think any
parents hashing
impression
out
will
a
be
divorce in
perfect.
the
Everyone's
background,
voice is
and the one
different.
kid screaming racial slurs because his stepdad beats him with a can of soup at night.
XQC is probably the first boot based on how much of a pathetic loser he is, and honestly that's kind of a shame. I can't stand the actual guy, but cartoon XQC is low-key really funny. I can actually understand what he's saying, which might be a little less authentic than the real thing, but you know what, I think it's a change made for the better.
I like that.
Sea-Dog VA and Iron Mouse are both pretty accurate as well.
I know they're
that Jesse's a big
streamers.
fan of these two specifically because he did make an animation for Iron Mouse's 2023 animation
I do
contest,
like,
and Iron Mouse herself has seen the episode. So needless
yeah,
to say,
I do like
he's
this
done his
character's
research. I think
design.
he has
It's
these
good.
two down pat. I also think their voices are really funny because Mouse sounds like a stupid child and Connor sounds like such a douchebag. I'm not insulting the VAs when I say that, they both did an excellent job. I do have to question how Iron Mouse exists in this world. Like, this clearly isn't lore accurate Iron Mouse because then she'd be Satan and she'd immediately win. But she's also not real person Iron Mouse because if she was, medical would not have cleared her. I guess this is a hybrid Iron Mouse, combining both the VTuber avatar as well as the real person, which I can accept. Although it does make me curious to know how
Yeah,
that
I don't know
changes
much
her
about any of this
relationship with
lore.
Connor. I don't know, I guess that's a question for another episode. Amelie clearly isn't normal either, so I guess in Clash Island world, being a VTuber is basically like being an alt-girl. Oh yeah, speaking of Amelie, can you guess who Jesse's favorite character is? Even beyond her getting her own exclusive trailer and her having the most detailed design of the cast, you can just kinda tell by the way she gushes over this producer that she's set up for the most plot out of anyone. And if you're at all interested in that plot, do not watch the VA interview. I don't know if it's just me looking into things, but based on what Jesse was saying, I feel like he kind of let on a little more than he really needed to. He came very close to spoiling her entire plot, and if you want to err on the side of caution, I just wouldn't watch the video.
I think I might watch
Flowers to
it,
Violet,
but
though,
I'm not
she does a
watching.
great job providing Monarch's voice.
I might watch the
Seriously,
show, but
full
I'm not
marks.
watching
Meat
anything
Canyon is a
related
little bit off, because I feel like
right
they
now.
lean a little too much into gross out. He feels less like Meat Canyon and more like Owen if he was about 20 years older and really into ARGs. Meat Canyon, or Papa Meat I guess if we're referring to the actual guy, has a very specific energy to him that Clash Island doesn't fully manage to replicate. And that is by no means a death sentence, but it is a little disappointing considering how accurate everyone else is. Outside of that, we've got Saikuno and Jaden Animations.
I've
They
heard
seem
of
accurate enough,
Saikuno.
but they don't really do anything, so yeah. Pokemon's here. I don't know anything about her, but
Yeah, I
she's
know
just
of
one
her.
of those influencers that's like, the idea of her is just so funny to me. Not as funny as the best YouTuber, Dream, but she's up there. Maximus Black and Peach Saliva, I believe, are
I
streamers,
feel like
and I don't really watch streamers, so I don't really know about.
Yeah, I don't watch streamers. But I feel like for this cast is fine. I think it has some noticeable people, but I feel like there's just like one person missing that would round this cast out. I mean, it's okay if you don't know a few people, but some are just like more unpopular, and like people that are watching, some of them are just not gonna know certain people, like I do. Um, so having just like another like noticeable character, like I could point them out and I know who they are. They're that YouTuber, right? I think that would be good. But other than that, love the designs of this whole show, and I think the comedy is pretty okay. Uh, and I like the voice acting. The voice acting is good.
Them. But by far the weirdest inclusion in this cast is Barbara Dunkelman from Rooster Teeth. Granted, I never really watched Rooster Teeth or Achievement Hunter for that matter, so maybe she was a big part of one of those channels
The
and I
only
just
thing I know
never
about Rooster
realized
Teeth
it.
is Camp
I
Camp.
only know her as the voice of Yang from Ruby, a show that I cannot stress
I
to
know
you
of
all
Ruby.
enough I hate. And just in general, I really, truly
I never
despise
watched
Rooster
Ruby.
Teeth as a company. Barbara's probably fine though. She's a hell of a voice actress and probably not at all affiliated with Rooster Teeth's terrible business practices, so I don't know what the point of this
I
section
think
was.
they're airing
Actually, I
the
don't think
final
there's
season
much
of
left
Camp
to
Camp.
go over because I don't think the show has a plot so far. We're only
It's just
one
episode
episode
one,
in, so
yeah.
this could very easily change. But aside from Monarch really wanting to meet this producer and Carter McQuaw being salty that Fresh canceled his show, there's not much in the way of story. I can tell that there will be given everything with Monarch, but honestly I'm not sure if the season really needs it. With all due respect to Jesse, I'm not the biggest fan of his writing. He can do comedy fairly well, when he's not attempting gross out, that is. But his dramatic writing definitely needs work. Still, it's clear to me that he and his team have been working very hard to get this out, so I have to give him props for that, because all things considered, this was a fun watch. Clash Island shows a lot of promise, and I'm looking forward to seeing this series continue. Hard to
Me
believe
too.
that this is the same guy who made Osuke Island, which is a whole other can of worms that we will open right now.
So just try and be original.
I'm not gonna
Be
sugarcoat it.
on
Osuke
you.
Island
Yeah.
is bad. Now, I've been on my wholesome arc for a little while now,
I've heard of
generally
it, but I've
trying
never
my
watched
best
it.
to uplift the shows that I talk about. But with all due respect, I really can't do that here because Osuke Island has basically no identity. Based on the first and only episode, as well as a few webcomic panels that I bothered to read, this is basically just a total drama fanfic. Look at this cast. Look at Kimberly.
It's crazy.
Look at Zoe and Devin. Look at Carter McQuaw and Chief. And now look at Jen. Yeah, that's right.
That's
this
just Gwen.
character on screen is named Jen. You know, like the Roblox game. Which, to
Yeah.
be fair, did come after
Total
the
Roblox
initial
Islands.
idea of Osuke Island, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at here. Even the ones whose designs aren't blatantly copied are still clearly stand-ins for existing characters. Vanessa is clearly meant to be Eva. Natalie and Colin are clearly Jeff and Bridget. We got Owen,
I can tell without even
Lindsay,
hearing them.
Ezekiel, Noah. This girl seems to be a cross of both
Oh,
Beth
Beth.
and Cameron. How daring. My favorite example of
Ooh,
this is
combining
Brett,
two
who I'm
characters.
positive was initially named Brent because this guy is
cool.
basically just Trent. Except instead of liking guitars, he's into bikes, which is really funny. Osuke Island, as I see it, is a total drama fanfiction with a budget, and not a very good one at that. There is very little effort put into the writing besides copying Total Drama Full Sail, and what effort is there goes almost entirely to Jesse Gill, who is the most obvious Gary Sue I've seen in quite some time. No, I did not accidentally mispronounce Jesse Ilg, who is the creator of Osuke Island. I was referring to Jesse Gill, the guy who looks suspiciously like Duncan if he was a SoundCloud rapper. Now, based on that information, you might be inclined to believe that Jesse Gill
Why is
is
he
a
wearing that
self-insert
mask?
of some kind, and if that is your assumption, then you would be correct. And in order to prove just how right you are, I am going to recount a list of things that happen with Jesse Gill in this episode.
Literally,
he
it's
is
just
introduced
Gwen.
to us as the most dangerous criminal
That's
in Canada,
Gwen and Heather,
which
like-
immediately gets 2 girls to fall for him. Side note, during Jesse's introduction, Jen says this.
You're such a liar. He's probably not dangerous at all. Well, he doesn't look like that kind of person, to be honest.
Ma'am, his parole officer just told you that he bit
And he
off a dude's
rolled him
fingers
in.
and
That's,
he's
like,
chained up
actually
like
so
Hannibal Lecter.
stupid.
I feel like you should exercise a little bit more caution. Following this, the plane crashes, and in a miraculous display of heroism, Jesse Gill is able to fly in and save everyone. Now, the scene itself is actually animated very well, but like, wow, they really want you to know that this guy is cool, huh? There's a scene where everyone explicitly comments on and fawns over his tattoo, which is apparently so cool that it makes Kimberly and Jen blush.
Like, people would not
In
do
my
that.
honest opinion, Seth's is better. And right after that, they're left in awe of Jesse Gill's totally
If
cool
any tattoo,
scar.
it's not his.
I love the confessional he has right after.
I
He's
love the
just
scar, it's,
yeah,
like, super
this took
small.
a lot of stitches to patch up, but it's pretty cool, I guess. Like, he's so
Why
full
is he
of it.
wearing a
Why
bandana?
is he doing this? Why is Jesse
Like, you
Gill
are not-
like this?
you are
and
not
lastly,
Gary
during a
Stu.
scene where this girl, Isabella, is drowning, who else but Jesse Gill swoops in to rescue her? And I feel like after seeing that one, the problem should be apparent. 1 or 2 of these things on their own could have worked. Hell, all of these things spaced out across multiple episodes also could have worked, but all of this jammed into one
Just say you
episode
wanted
into
to
one character that shares a
love,
name with the
love
creator
triangle, like,
makes it very hard to beat the
self-insert.
allegations
Just
after
admit
that. I
that.
do know that at one point Jesse Ilg did plan to create a series called The Jesse Gill Story. And I'm not sure if he still plans to see that one through, but I do remember there being a trailer uploaded to YouTube not long before
I mean,
Oscar
I give you
Island stuff
props
started
for,
coming out.
like,
So I
trying to
imagine
insert yourself
transferring the
into a
main
story
character of one show to
and
an
keeping
ensemble
that
cast
all the way
probably
through.
caused a few issues, and I think that's something to keep in mind if/when this series returns.
Oh, yeah, it's a large
Jesse, if you've
cast.
stumbled across this video, I want to say for the record that I have a lot of respect for what you've been able to achieve. In terms of what you're doing right now, I think Clash Island had a good start, and I'm really looking forward to see what comes next. I know that Osuke Island is a project that you hold very dear to you, so please don't let this analysis deter you from making more. As far as animation
Yeah.
goes, you're there, but as far as characters and writing go, I think you should consider making some changes. I'm not going to go too in-depth here because that's not what this video is about, but here are a few rapid-fire suggestions that I think may help. For starters, take 6 to 8 characters that you're not as attached to and cut them. 24 is way too big of a cast size, and I think a smaller number would be easier
I
to
think
balance.
the original Total
For the
Drama
characters that resemble official
worked
TV
because
contestants,
it's the original Total Drama, but it's a large cast, you know, like, to juggle, and you might think, like, well, they did it. It's like, they didn't juggle it good. Like, there's so many eliminations that just didn't make sense, and characters that never interacted, so even in later seasons, you know, there's so many characters that you only have, like, a limited thing. That's why characters like Eva, like, didn't appear. That's why Ezekiel got the Ezekiel treatment, you know?
such as Jen, Zoe, and Devin, you need to overhaul them entirely or cut them outright. Beyond the fact that Fresh isn't going to let you put them in the show, by copying these
Yeah.
characters so strongly, people are only going to see them as worse versions of the originals. For most of the others, you can probably keep their designs, but make a conscious effort to give them more personality. By cutting down some of the cast, you have the opportunity to recycle their characteristics into the remaining cast members, which will make them stand out more. So instead of 3 one-note characters, for example, you could combine them into one character with several notes. Last but certainly not least, seriously cut down on Jesse's screen time. Overexposure can kill your character in the eyes of the audience. I promise you, if you dial him back, he
Cough,
will
cough,
be
Jake.
received much better
All
than he was
stars.
the first go-around. If anyone is really curious, you can still watch the episode on Newgrounds or follow the webcomic on Webtoon, although it hasn't been updated in a while, so keep that in mind. Although for my money, I personally wouldn't recommend Osuke Island. There are a lot of better shows out there that I think deserve your attention much more. And as far as legacy shows are concerned, that would include...
And besides, your opinions are gross and
Gone
disgusting.
Wild.
I don't think this video would be complete if I didn't at least
I've never
mention
seen
Total
this.
Drama Gone Wild. If you're someone who hasn't been in the community for very long, it might be tempting to look at Gone Wild, see that it doesn't have the same level of production as this Venture Camp or Reality Resort, and then turn away without a second thought. But what's noteworthy about this series is that it came out in 2016, over 9 years ago by this point. This was about a year after Redonkulous Race wrapped up, a period where the fandom was plagued by uncertainty over the future
I'm
of Total
surprised I've
Drama.
never watched
And while
this.
it didn't have nearly the same fandom as something like Total Drama Next Generation, which came out about 2 years later, this show definitely made waves when it came out. I credit that to the fact that this was one of the first fan series to be fully animated and voice acted. A novel concept now, given how many quality shows have been made since, but back in 2016, this was really the only one. It's obviously not TV quality, but I don't think that was ever the intention. Even still, Gone Wild feels like such an earnest attempt to recapture the magic of Total Drama, and I give it props for that. It's definitely more of a Total Drama fan project than a full-fledged series inspired by it, but unlike Osuke Island, Gone Wild clearly tried to do its own thing. Granted, two characters, Nicole and Celia, are clearly meant to be the children of Dunkney and Alaheather respectively, but in this case I actually like how they're used. Nicole is surprisingly well adjusted for a Dunkney love child. She might have an attitude, sure, but she gets along surprisingly well with the nerds, which I think is pretty wholesome. Celia to me feels like Heather and Alejandro just made a child because they wanted a genetically perfect Total Drama contestant, which, judging by an elimination order I found on the wiki, they failed at. Admittedly, there's not too much to say on this one. Gone Wild only made it to episode 3, which is unfortunate, but it makes sense
the potential of the design,
behind the scenes. Basically, the head creator lives in a country where military service is mandatory, and that's the kind of thing that really drains your motivation. So yeah, I get why the show just kinda stopped after that. So while we're here, let's go over some of the highlights, because there are a few funny moments.
That person on the right looks
like
a good
talk about is
Spacey.
Michael, the first boot, who's like the pre-alpha version of Alessio. He paints. His elimination is set into motion after Celia walks
At least
up to him and is
Alessio
like, hey,
plays
you should
the
paint
guitar.
forest. And he's just like, you're right, Celia, that's an awesome idea. Which is really funny because A, not 10 seconds prior, he asked for her name
This
and
is
she
just blonde guy
did not give it to him. B, he willingly stopped
with
to
a
paint the
canvas.
ugliest landscape possible during a race. And C, even after the challenge finished, this is all he managed to get done. This man is a fraud.
Michael, don't leave me here. Michael, help me.
Bobby Joe is also pretty funny. His whole deal is that he talks a lot and he's kind of stupid, but wait. I've heard this voice before. There's no way this is who I think it is, right? Hold it, hang on, let me check. Object Merry-Go.
Who is it?
No fucking way. No fucking way! Bobby Joe shares a VA with Glove from the Object Merry-Go-Round. How did I never make this connection before? Oh my god, I feel like I just opened Pandora's box. I don't think I can talk about this without going off on a massive tangent, but this is genuinely one of the funniest revelations I've had in quite some time. And to anyone who's seen the Object Merry-Go-Round, I think you'll get it. Let's move on before I have an
If I watched it, I would
Some other
probably
notable
understand.
characters include Danielle, who really isn't that special on her own, but I feel she's both written and acted in a very genuine way. Also SDZ. Who is SDZ? I think he's funny.
Hey, mommy.
But probably the two funniest characters on a conceptual level only appear in the third and final episode. You probably saw that Chris was hosting the show in the first 2 episodes, but I believe Fresh TV did the thing that Fresh TV likes to do to TD fan products and basically told Boncow Productions,
They cannot
hey,
do that.
don't use Chris. And so he was replaced by Tristan Van Dark, who serves the exact same role, but Van Dark is somewhat different in the sense that he both kidnapped a dude and also probably murdered Chris. I desperately need to see a rap battle between Carter McQuaw and Tristan Van Dark. And then halfway through, Kyle Bain joins the battle as well, and it's a total free-for-all. Someone out there, please do this. It would be so cool. Also, this guy Matthew debuts, and I think he's pretty funny. What's worth noting is that both of these characters join in episode 3, which I think is noticeably better than the first 2. Not only does the animation get better, but the character writing is noticeably stronger as well. This was an ambitious series that had its own story to tell. And what really highlights that for me is the scene with Tim in the woods in episode 2, where he discovers this torn journal that warns him about the dangers of the island. The presentation of this scene is excellent. The
This is gonna be a good
the music really encapsulates the mood
Beth
of the scene.
Totem
No,
plotline.
it's just really good.
Like
Had
in
the series continued,
Island.
this probably would have been an overarching plotline, but alas, we're only left to speculate on what could have been. For a show released so long ago, I think it's really impressive to see how well Gone Wild has aged. The voice acting is mixed, but the animation is lovely and the vibes are immaculate. It's only 4 episodes long, and I doubt we'll ever see a 5th one, but I still highly recommend watching Gone Wild. It won't knock your socks off, but maybe it'll give you an appreciation for the pre-Disventure Camp era of the fandom. A lot has changed since Gone Wild came out, including the general quality of online cartoons, and Total Drama was no exception to that. Because before Disventure Camp released, there was another fan series on the horizon that looked to be Total Drama's next breath. And that series was, of course...
Yeah, I remember this. Blue
I'm not
Sky
sure if I have
Productions,
to
right?
worry about copyright with this one,
Or am
but
I missing
if
that
I
one?
do, I've decided
Messing
to
that
make
one up.
this one look like film noir, because I think that might help. So I was mostly finished with this script, only to realize that I forgot Total Drama Reunion, which is absurd.
That's like the
because
whole
it's
reason
perfect
why...
for this video. I feel like most of you already
Like, it's the... Okay, it's not the whole reason, but, like, it's the whole, like, resurgence of, like, wanting a Total Drama-esque series to be on YouTube. And then Odd Nation's like, okay, I can try to do that. And weren't they already doing that before? Or I might be mistaken, but people's interests were piqued, so that's why Disventure Camp got so many views. And now there's a whole fandom, which is crazy.
know the story behind this one, but if not, let me give you a quick recap. Total Drama Reunion was created by Blue Studios and planned as a fan-made TDI
Blue
continuation
Studios.
taking place 15 years after the original series.
Did I say
The
Blue
first
Sky?
and only
Like, why
episode
did I say
released back
that?
in
It's
2021, so it
stupid.
predates Disventure Camp
Anyway.
by about a year. And because that was during the drought period,
Okay, it
the
was year
Total
before.
Drama fanbase was obsessed with Reunion. How obsessed? Well, if memory serves, this thing peaked at #1 on YouTube's trending tab when it came out, which is an absolutely
remember, there was
insane
lots of
feat. I think that
viewers.
should tell you how starved for content the fandom was, if anything. That's the kind of attention that gets you noticed by Fresh
The
TV,
Total Drama
but
fandom
unfortunately
will never
not in
die.
a good way. Alas, Reunion is mostly known for being the fan project that Fresh TV forcibly shut down, and I think that really sucks. Not only because the series was canned in the first place, but because it genuinely had a lot of promise. There's a
True.
reason why Reunion took off when it came out. Not just because it was something new in the Total Drama universe, but because it felt like something that belonged there. In my opinion, it is very hard for most writers to get Total Drama's cast right. Maybe I'm critical about this because I'm obsessed with the show, but most fan projects that try to write for the original cast usually miss the mark. Now this could be for a few reasons. Sometimes everyone is out of character, sometimes the dialogue doesn't sound natural for a character to say, and sometimes it can be as small as a character having a weird reaction to something in the project. My point is, despite being based on stereotypes, Island's cast has a lot of little details to them that really make them feel like people. And in my opinion, Reunion does a really good job.
Like how Courtney hates green jello, and that Gwen has like a little brother. Like, there's like all types of little different things. Like, there's so much lore to this series, even some of the writers don't keep consistent. I think that it's still cool, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
At capturing that, as well as adding on new stuff in line with the premise of the season. I fully believe that the cast of TDI could end up like this 15 years after the original show. The voice acting really helps with that, as I feel like everyone is pretty well cast for the most part. I mean, they got
Well, as of now, we know that in universe, actually, that Owen is like still like the same age, or visually it looks the same age. Probably not. I'm guessing they just didn't want to do a redesign, or if they just want to keep the spirit of the character alive, but keeping him an older age, just like not stating it. But I don't think that Total Drama will ever do a, like revival, even though they said they've had interest in doing that, but when they had the chance to, they just made like, you know, new characters, which I think was the best idea. I like the reboots cast. It's good.
Kudo to voice Chris, legitimately one of the few people who I think can do a really good Chris impression. Weirdly enough, I think Trent is also really good. Like, the voice sounds right, but all of his little breathy inflections are pretty
Anything
much
that gives
dead
Trent
on,
a better
and it's
character, I
genuinely
can
astounding
respect.
that they bothered with that sort of authenticity. I can't say it's a perfect
Why is his
episode
mouth so
because
high?
there are a couple things about it
Oh,
that could
Trent's
have been
design has
better.
always just been
For
bad,
starters,
but
I'm somewhat mixed on the tone of this episode. It's not ultra serious or anything, but it's decidedly darker than the original, which does make sense to a degree given the context, but I'm not really sure if it works. I do like the nightmare sequence with Courtney though, that I think was handled very well. And obviously the animation is very well done. These are some very nice character designs, and yes, that does include Cody. Total Drama Reunion was an episode dripping
I
with
like Cody's
passion,
like
and
big
while
bulky
it does
design.
suck knowing that it got canned, something tells me this won't be the last we'll see of Blue Studios. And by something, I mean Kruger Mansion. Kruger Mansion is what they're working on right now, I believe, unless I am mistaken, but I don't think
Didn't
I am.
Odd Nation
There's
try to
one
do
more series I
something
want to
about
look
a
at in
series
this video, but
animation?
before we get to that,
I
I want to
don't
go over
know.
a few honorable mentions. These are series that didn't make it into this video for one reason or another, so if I didn't cover your favorite series already, it's probably in this section. Camp Drama. I'm gonna be honest, I gave this one a shot, it's just not that interesting. I think this one could be ironically enjoyable, but Revolution Island had that category covered, so
Is
I
that
left
just
this one on the cutting room
Fiore?
floor. Operation Libertad. This
Oh my
one got
gosh.
recommended a
This
few
art
times,
style.
so I gave it a shot and watched the first
Interesting.
episode, and I'll be honest,
Interesting.
I'm really mixed on this. On one hand,
It looks
I
like Go
get a
Animate.
really bad vibe from this show. This looks like if you combine Total Drama and Super Jail together, and that is not a winning combination. There's just a bunch of things that really put me off, namely the character designs. This Waluigi-looking motherfucker is easily the worst of them. I do not like looking at him at all. On the other hand, I
Not my
actually
favorite.
kinda like the way this show is written. I obviously haven't seen much of these characters, but there's some interesting personalities here. My
That guy
favorite
just
is
looks like
definitely this
Mario
woman. She's just...
without a hat.
I need to play the clip.
Ahora, prefiero mantenerme. Un momento. ¿Tú no eres esa madre que descuartizó y tiró a la basura a sus hijos de 1 y 3 años de edad? ¿En serio? ¡Qué horror! ¡Carne tan joven!
The concept of her character is just so darkly funny to me. And obviously the setting being in a prison is very unique, and from what little I saw,
Interesting.
I think they used that premise fairly well. I don't know, if there's a lot of demand for this one, I'll definitely give it another try.
Is the song that's playing in the background, did it sample Versus Susie from Deltarune? It sounded like it, but I'm not sure.
But for now, I will respectfully keep my distance. What in God's name is that?
What is
Odyssey
that?
Del Drama / Total Drama
That is
Odyssey.
very
I've heard a lot of
cursed.
good things about this one, and I honestly wanted to give it a shot, but unfortunately, I felt it was too long to be put in the video. I don't think I would have been able to do Odyssey's 3-season run justice if I put it in this video, so like with Libertad, if there's demand for it, I'll look into this one more. Total Drama Pacateo Island Camp. This one technically shouldn't count, but I doubt I'm ever gonna get the chance to talk about this one
Slideshow.
anywhere else, so I'm gonna do it here. In the 7th episode of this series, titled Mutations, Chris and Chef are turned into mutants as everyone runs away. Everyone except for everyone's favorite Pacateo Island character,
Beardo!
Dave,
Oh,
because
Dave.
as he so eloquently
Actually,
puts it,
yeah.
I can't
No one
move
likes Dave.
because of fear. Dave is promptly ganged up on by a group of mutant fangs, which
I think that's better characterization than the show gives him, so you know what? Respect.
infect him with the mutation liquid, turning him into a
Yeah,
mutant
that is
himself.
Versus
A
Susie.
mutant that just so happens to
Susie.
look like this.
Oh. What is this?
I call him Dave. Also, Sky gets eliminated pretty early in this one, and Dave falls into, and I quote, deep depress. Total Drama. Total Drama was easily the most
I
requested
watched
series
this.
in my community tab,
I've
but if you're
watched
disappointed
this.
that I didn't cover it in
It's
this
very
video,
nostalgic.
don't be. Total Drama will be getting its own dedicated video sometime in the future. There's a lot to talk about with this one, so it wouldn't feel right putting it in a compilation video like this. But I promise you, this series will have its time. Total Drama Next Generation. Yeah, this is like 7
didn't watch
seasons.
this.
It would take me more time to rewatch this series than it would to watch literally everything else I talked about put together. Needless to say, I'm not going to subject myself to that right now, but this
Yeah,
one will get
don't
its
do
own
that.
video too, don't worry. A
Wow.
lot of you also suggested
You're a
Fang
lot
and
braver than I
Rompus,
am.
which like, sure,
That's
I can
Sting
do
and
that.
Rampa.
Tetro and Eden's Garden were the standouts, which makes enough sense to me.
Why are you doing Ding and Rampa fan games now? Okay, wait, what did you say? Because I am in the Ding and Rampa space as well.
Sure, I can do that. Tetro and Eden's Garden were the standouts.
Tetro, I haven't. Is Tetro a game or a series? But either way, I haven't consumed it. Eden's Garden is good. I haven't done chapter 1 yet because I know who the culprit is for chapter 1, which makes me kind of not want to play it. I do like Jet Dawson. He's the best character. I love him.
Which makes enough sense to me. Tetro is genuinely the best thing to come out of
I haven't watched Tetro, but please say something about Despair Time. Despair Time is like probably like the best Danganronpa I've ever played. Aside from chapter 3 of Super Danganronpa Another 2, that one's peak. That whole chapter is like actually peak Danganronpa. I don't think anything will get better than that ever.
This fandom, and I'm not exaggerating even a
But as a game, I think, or not as like a series, I think that Despair Time has more high quality put into it. Even though the creators said like, they're taking breaks or like they might never finish it, um, I think that, they should have their time.
little bit when I say that. I think it eclipses the original games wholesale, and I'm not even caught up. I haven't made it to the third body discovery announcement, which I know is a very long time ago. I've been busy. I'm gonna get to it eventually, I promise. Don't, Ryan, please forgive me. And as for Eden's Garden, I'm gonna level with you all. I tapped out after the body discovery announcement because I think this one is really boring. The prologue was great, and I was really hyped to see how
Maybe
this
I
one would
shouldn't play it
continue,
then.
but once I got into chapter 1,
I don't
all
know
my
who the
excitement for it
victim
kinda
is,
fell
though.
off. Sorry. Total Drama Club Penguin.
I know it's not Jet.
that nobody suggested this series, but I don't care. I am going to make a video on it at some point because it is genuinely the funniest total drama series that I've ever watched.
I love like just sitting down, eating some Cheez-Its, and then looking up like total drama plushie like series because they're fun and they have like 0 views and I want to give them views even though it's like from 8 years ago. Because I'm bored and it's fun, okay?
You have not truly lived until you have experienced the magic of Total Drama Club Penguin by Luigi Spanish, and I am going to make sure that each and every one of you experiences that magic. Kruger Man.
We're not gone yet. Go away.
Stop with the
Last but not
Springtrap
least,
jump scare.
Sonic Arts. Believe me, this season's time will come, and when it does, I am going to rip it to
haven't
shreds. This
watched
is season
this.
2 to an
But I can appreciate what Lich Gang is doing here because all of these are so niche and I love that they're bringing light to it, you know?
overarching series, and season 3 would easily be the subject of a massive video if it didn't get removed from YouTube. Sonic Arts is a complete mess, and for the sake of my younger self, I will see to it that
Why
it
are
is
Shadow's
destroyed.
arms
But
like
I
that?
can confidently say
Okay,
that
all of
none
their
of you
arms like
watching this
that.
video right now are prepared for it. This is for several reasons, but the simplest is that you'd need context for season 1. Wait.
Is this what we're doing?
Now, I've done my due diligence to give fair criticism and encourage all of these creators and their projects, despite whatever my thoughts on them may be.
It can't be that bad.
I will not be doing
Can
that
it?
here. Because for one, both creators have left the internet by this point, so there's really no need to
Were
hold
they
back.
bullied off the
And
internet?
two, this one's bad. And when I say bad, I don't mean, oh, this is cringe or very low quality. No, I need to make myself very, very clear here. If you are under the age of 18, then I strongly encourage you to click off
I
this
just turned
video
18.
now. If you are a family member of mine, then I strongly encourage you to click off this video now. I do
I'm
not want to
not
subject
in any
you
of those
to this
categories.
series. And lastly, I need to offer a major content warning. If anything on this list could potentially trigger you, then I strongly suggest you to click off this video
Guys,
now.
if it triggers you, click off the video. Lich Gang has already made some great content. Go watch the original video, of course. Just skip that part when you get to this part as well, you know. Show Lich Gang some love. But if you can't do this, I get that. So yeah. But I'm going to jump into it.
Now, I am being 100% sincere. The Sonic Total Drama fan series made in MS Paint has all of these things in it. I'm going to cut around the explicit content, both to keep
all
this
of it's
video
crazy.
monetized and so that none of you have to experience this garbage the way that I did. With all that being said, let's get into Sonic TDI. So the season starts like this.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris McClay, and this is Sonic
Okay, so that's
TDI.
his first
Now
solo?
let's meet the contestants. First up.
So ignoring the voice acting and animation for a moment, I had to turn that down 7 decibels. So right off the bat, this show looks...
Thank you for turning it down and not,
interesting.
hurting my
credit where
ears.
it's due, it's better than I could ever draw, but it was very clearly made in MS
I cannot
Paint,
draw
which is
for
probably
anything.
not the best software for this kind of project. But honestly, it wasn't that distracting, aside from furry Chris McClane and... you We're gonna get to the cat
Oh my
later.
gosh.
For now,
Who
let me
is
give you a
this?
quick rundown of all the other characters. Sonic is Sonic. He's the confident go-getter protagonist guy. Or at least he would be if he didn't say a slur in episode 1. Because that's a thing that happens.
Oh.
We're better than Sonic. You would say that, Knuckles. You stupid.
He starts off
Oh my
kinda
gosh.
normal, but then by the merge, he's obsessed with Silver, so at that point he becomes insufferable. Shadow is painfully
giving
edgy
Mike.
unless he's
Not
talking
Mike,
to the cat, in
Dave
which case he's a
from
love-struck,
Pocket
blubbering idiot, which is about as annoying as it sounds.
Wait, what
Silver,
about Shadow?
in which case becomes insufferable. Shadow is painfully edgy unless he's talking to the cat, in which case he's a love-struck, blubbering idiot,
That's
which
annoying.
is about as annoying as it sounds.
That's
Silver
not...
also gets involved with these
He
two
would
in
never
a
do
love
that.
triangle later on, which turns Shadow into a massive incel. I can't help but feel like someone was...
At this point, I understand using, like, pre-made characters because it's easy, and you've grown to love these characters, so putting them down in a different situation is easy to do. But at that point, just make them two different characters. If you're, like, writing your script, and, like, you're on episode, like, let's say, like, episode 8 or 9, and, like, everyone is acting out of character and you have to keep making excuses, just make them their own characters at that point, you know what I mean? Even if there's, like, mixed media, even if it's like, "Oh, this is my original character, but some characters stay the same," that's fine. Anything to get the ball rolling and, like, not to this creator, even though they left the internet potentially, but to people that actually want to create good fan series and aren't weird and not problematic.
projecting. I actually wrote in the script that apparently he did have one funny moment in the season. One
One
but I
funny.
didn't write it down, and I'm not going to look for it, so...
That'd be
I'm
scary
not going to
to look
talk
for
about
it.
Rouge too much because she low-key might get this video demonetized, but
What'd
let's
she
just say
do?
Guptil89 would probably be very happy with how open she is. Despite how poorly she's
Is it
written,
giving
her
Mew
elimination is
V3?
honestly kind of iconic. She's probably the second best character in this season by default, so it's kind of funny to see how she goes out.
Fine. If it's fine by you guys, it's fine by me. And I'm taking my fine body and my fine boobs with my fine walk along this fine boardwalk. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna go back to my
What
fine
is
house
this?
eating
I
fine
hate
ice
this.
cream on the fine freaking floor. Goodbye. Finest, finders, fine.
Hell yeah, girly.
Fine.
You get it. Cream the
Okay.
Rabbit is a
I caught
child.
it
And
unironically.
unfortunately, it is relevant that I have to bring that up. Tikal in general is awful. They made her Izzy, but also Haiji Toa, and if you understood that reference, please explain it to
I
anyone in the
understand
comments
it.
who may be confused. I'm not going to.
I'm not gonna
You
say
can't
it,
make
but-
me. Blaze had basically
Just
her
look up
whole
Haiji
character
Toa.
butchered. She's a spoiled princess who calls everyone peasants, and despite how
What
terrible that
is this?
sounds, she's arguably the best character in the season, besides maybe Rouge. That should give you an indication
Annoying
of how
characters
bad
can be good.
this gets. Even if you don't know anything about Sonic the Hedgehog, you can probably tell by my descriptions that these are not good characters. Case in point, Tails, who is a total brat. Basically all he does is scream, and he screams loud.
Otto. It's super
It probably
quiet.
doesn't sound that bad on your end, but keep in mind I turned that down by 45 decibels. For
Thank
reference,
you.
if I turned my own audio down by that much... And he does this
Barely
multiple
hear
times
you.
throughout the season. There are also a lot of scenes with him that I don't wish to cover in detail. Whatever you are imagining right now, believe...
Is it Tales with the Children? There's something with a Sonic fan about Tails and the kids and like the series. I haven't watched any like Sonic stuff ever. Well, I have. I just haven't played the games. I don't know much about the fandom. I have played Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever, like the mystery game. That was fun. The visual novel, but yeah, the fandom is crazy. Christian. Yeah.
Believe me, it is worse. Silver is especially obnoxious because he talks and acts like this.
So, Coco, now that the bitch is gone, you want to go on our play date?
Not only does he sound like a guy who would stop his car at a school zone, but his entire personality can essentially be summed up as horny otaku who hasn't gone outside in a month.
Oh,
Pretty
so I
much
hate
every
that.
scene Silver's in is torture. The idea was clearly to make him the soft boy of the cast who does cute things and gets shipped with another guy, but in practice he's basically Hifumi Yamada, but a hedgehog. And if you don't know who that is, here's a picture of him. Yeah, basically this vibe. But that's not all.
Otaku.
Sonic TDI also includes a fan character who competes alongside the rest of the cast, and her name is Coco Nichelle the cat. Now you might look
That
at this
feels
character
racist.
and think, oh, she doesn't seem so bad. Why do you seem to have such a
Let's
vendetta
listen to
against
her.
this character? Oh, you finna find out. I'm gonna show you. And you're gonna wish I hadn't.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live.
So there's a little funny
I
thing
see you,
about the
CapCut.
way this character's name is said. Everyone in the series refers to her as Coco. With that pronunciation, I assume to make it sound more Asian, because both of these creators are fucking weeaboos, and I'm using that term derogatorily. I will be referring to her as Coco,
Most
with the
people
most
don't use that
American pronunciation as I can
nicely.
muster, because I hate this
Coco.
cat. Coco is a Mary Sue by every definition of the term, but to make sure I get that point across, I watched this season twice, and on the second time I was focused solely on taking Coco-related notes. The results of my research may prove shocking, or they may not.
Wait, did you say you
Coco
watched this
season,
twice?
Every definition of the term, but to make sure I get that point across, I watched this season twice, and on the second time I was focused solely on taking Coco-related notes. The results of my research may prove shocking, or they may not. I don't know. It's up to you. First of all, she's the only quote-unquote normal character. Pretty much all of the men are sex-crazed perverts, and all of the other women are portrayed as either crazy, mean, or otherwise a non-threat to Coco. And as such, they're all eliminated back-to-back, with Coco being the only female contestant to merge. She's also incredibly broken for no reason. Tell me how the cat is able to jump off of a mountain faster than it takes Shadow to teleport. Why is it that Shadow can't kick open a box of rings and
I don't
needs
know,
Coco's
but there's something about their emotionless faces that is so eerie. Does that make sense?
machete to help
Also,
him do
what a
it?
mountain.
Why is it that a trained ninja like Espio completely bombs an obstacle course while she can do it no problem? And why is it that she wins basically every challenge and only loses when she forfeits or quits? This is further exemplified by her chibi kitty form, a transformation that turns Coco into
Oh,
a
that's
tiny
her.
cat
I thought
who
that was
for
just a
some
cat.
reason can do pretty much anything. Yep. In this universe, Shadow the Hedgehog ultimate life form is pretty much helpless against
Why
a
does
cat
he have
with
a
machete
gun?
and shape-shifting powers.
What the heck?
The season literally could
Oh my
not
gosh,
function
that's
without her.
crazy.
She gets eliminated during the pre-merge only to immediately come back and be doted on by everyone. She's so obviously a self-insert Mary Sue that you might be questioning why I'm even bringing this up. You might be questioning why I'm being so harsh towards a project made by two amateurs over a decade ago. Well, I'm glad you asked. Based on their voices, I'm willing to bet that both creators were at least teenagers when writing Sonic TDI. And while I think teenage immaturity can excuse a lot of what happens in this season, there's still a lot of really dodgy stuff here. And I had to watch nearly 2 hours of it. And during that time, I realized that Sonic TDI is depraved. And in order to make that explicitly clear to you, here's a bulleted list of real things that happen in this season.
Am I gonna have to read this
Sonic
out?
calls Knuckles the F-slur. Coco shows Shadow
Thank
how
you for
to eat
telling
ice
me.
cream, which makes him very aroused, prompting him to relieve himself in the lavatory.
Hate that.
Challenge 3 deserves its own mini tangent because it is explicitly based around the depravity of the Sonic fandom. And if that sounds like a recipe for disaster, So
Yeah,
Freddy Chris
it
essentially
is.
forces Sonic and Shadow into taking sexy photos with each other. You know, because he's a freak. And after a segment of stolen fan art and
What
probably
is this?
copyrighted music,
What is this
he
2-pixel
still hasn't gotten the yaoi moment that
fan
he
art?
wanted. Which prompts Shadow to...
Well then I guess it's time to up the ante. Wait, Shadow, what are you going to...
There's some very gross audio that plays during this part, but I'm not gonna
I
put
hate
that.
that.
In the
I
video.
hate that a lot.
He wins the challenge by doing this, by the way. Okay, not the full challenge. Sonic's team wins the whole thing in the end because it was in 3 parts, and Knuckles doesn't take it well. I will not be showing you the clip because I fear YouTube may not like it. But to summarize, after losing the challenge, he screamed very loud, injected himself with some unsavory substances, and proceeded to bash his head in. You know, like a normal person. So because Knuckles
Why is
did
this so
that,
violent?
Coco, with all
I
her
hate it.
infinite kindness, decides to forfeit the challenge. What a little cherub, throwing the challenge so that Knuckles won't jump onto spikes without a respawn. Remember when I mentioned Cream the Rabbit being a child?
Yeah.
Well... Okay, I'm gonna level with you all. Putting jokes aside from the moment, there's a scene with Cream and Coco in episode 3 that is clearly intended to be fan service, and it is one of the most uncomfortable, revolting scenes I've ever seen in a show like this. I will not be showing this scene or
I
describing
think
it
it's
in any
it's not
amount
even
of
fan
detail,
service, it's
because
just for
thinking
weirdos.
about it makes me
I don't think
actively
anyone
ill.
should be a
Based on
fan
what I've shown you, it
of
might
that.
not seem like it, but there is a lot of very gross sexual content in this show, but everything with Cream is especially bad. There is no justification for content
Sonic
like
fandom
this,
is so
but that's a very heavy subject
icky.
and not one that should be tackled in a video like this, so we're
Which is
going to
humorous,
move on.
yeah.
Just know that this type of content is in the season and that you should stay away from it. On a lighter note, there's a quiz challenge in
Very mature,
episode
very
6,
mature.
and in a matter of 2 questions, Chris goes from asking, what are the names of Sonic's brother and sister, to how long is Sonic's downstairs trouser snake.
Why would he ask
Silver
that?
gets in on the Coco and Shadow love triangle, turning Shadow into a violent murderer man who screams at Coco in an incel rage, only to later form
I
an
hate how they're
alliance
all
with
looking at
Sonic
me,
and Silver,
aside
despite
from
throwing
Tails.
axes, missiles, and lasers at the latter. Tails is racist. Tails miraculously survives the elimination, and in response
are we
to
back
that,
to the bullet
opts to,
point?
God damn it, relieve himself in front of Chris. I will not be
Why?
showing you this because it's disgusting. Sonic fans
Isn't
in
he
the
like
audience
8?
might be wondering, hey, isn't Tails only 8 years old?
Yeah, literally.
Yes, he is. And not only did the creator know about that, Chris outright brings it up in the following scene. Multiple explicit scenes between Sonic and Silver. Someone please kill me.
I hate
There's
that.
a paintball challenge, and everyone has to do it while wearing Speedos, except for Tails. He doesn't get one. Not because he's a child and that would be incredibly gross, but because he's apparently fat, and it would kill Chris's vibe. During the final 3 challenge, Sonic and Espio beat Chris over the head with a bat.
What
One of the
is
few
this
decisions
show?
I can actually get
I hate
behind.
this.
But then there's a scene after that where Sonic
The
is very
hands.
clearly flirting with Tails. He's very creepy and gross, and it ends with Tails. God damn it, not again! There's another scene where Cream is fucking hell. There's another Cream fan service scene in the finale. It's between her and Sonic, and it's awful. I hate it. Why would anyone do this?
I'm not watching
Chris's
this.
nephew shows up. Chris is
Why is it
infatuated
emo?
with him because of course he is. He's a freak. There's a scene between Nephew and Shadow. Shadow kills him, and we end the season with the big reveal. The creators were
God.
Hitalia fans the entire time. I'll be honest, I initially went into this section
makes
wanting
sense.
to give the creators the benefit of the
Kinda.
doubt, because this series came out over a decade ago, and they were probably young. But after sitting through this entire
I have the Tails
thing, this
plushie.
season has killed all of my goodwill. Sonic TDI is without question the
He's
worst
safe in my home.
fan-made total drama series I have ever seen, and the only positive thing I gained from watching it was a newfound appreciation for everything else. Revolution Island may have been rough around the edges. Million Game Academy might
But
have
at
been
least it's
boring,
not
and
depraved.
Osuke Island might not have had an original bone in its skeleton. But all of those projects fundamentally come from a good place, while Sonic TDI does not. Thankfully, the
I can
official
tell.
upload has been purged, but re-uploads do exist on YouTube, and I implore everyone watching this video to stay
This
away
was an
from them.
educational
I'm
moment
serious.
not to watch
Rewatching
it.
Sonic TDI felt like reliving a childhood nightmare as an adult, and while I'm not traumatized by it or anything, I hope, I certainly wouldn't want anyone else to look for
Yeah.
it. Keep in mind, when Sonic TDI came out, most of the people watching it were probably young kids. I was a young kid when I first watched it, and I distinctly,
I'm glad I didn't come
clear
across
as day
this
in
when
my
I was a
mind,
child.
remember thinking to myself at the time, this was the good one. I remember seasons 2 and 3 being so much worse, but I'm not talking about them today, or maybe ever actually, because I don't want to think about Sonic TDI ever again. But all
Good.
things considered, it's clear to me that this community has come a long way with its fan projects. In this video alone, we covered so many interesting projects, and I had to skip most of the big ones. Total Drama, Odyssey, and obviously Next Generation all played a pivotal role in keeping
But those
this
have like
community alive.
seasons and seasons,
And now
right?
we're getting new projects
I'm
all
not
the
quite
time,
sure,
which
but
is awesome.
I think that's pretty
Obviously, not all of them are great,
fair.
but they don't need to be. What's important is that people are creating and this community is thriving. And I had a lot of fun reflecting on how far we've come. And while I'm reflecting, I'm gonna give a huge shout out to
Reality
my channel
Resort,
members.
Mr.
Factually
Camp.
False, Skohei,
Are great.
Novas, Sheepishly, and
Even though I need to
Mom.
catch up
Love
on
you, Mom. These 5 people collectively
Reality
represent
Resort,
the Cool
so.
Kids Club, an esteemed group of Lech Gang fans who I hold in very high regard. I cannot express to them how grateful I am that they would choose to donate to my channel, but I hope they recognize how much I appreciate them. And if you'd like to join this exclusive group, consider joining my channel membership by clicking the join button
Yeah,
below.
guys, consider
In
it.
exchange for a monthly subscription, you can get some pretty cool perks while supporting my creative endeavors on YouTube. If you can't pay though, that's totally fine. Save your money for when you need it. After all,
Guys,
you can
go
always
support
like,
Let's
comment,
Gang if
and
you
subscribe to
can.
the channel because that is totally free and helps me out a lot. I know this video is only 56 minutes long, but
Only
that's like
56.
3.5 minutes off from an hour, so this is basically an hour-long video.
Oh my gosh. She updated her profile picture, I think. Wow, great. I will never be able to get like these minutes away from my life ever again. They're like, ingrained inside of me. But either way, Let's Gang, this was a fantastic video, and I liked it a lot. And I can say that like you have the personality and like the fan base to just not just do Total Drama series. And I think I remember watching a video of yours saying that you in the future you didn't want to do just Total Drama. And even if Total Drama gets the most views, I think that, you know, branching out would be like fun. Like I don't even care if you title it like, like Total Drama uh revisited and then like it's completely off topic. But I just like hearing you talk and your editing is fun. And your channel has lore, which I think is really neat. But yeah, go subscribe to Lich Gang if you can. Or the subscription to go subscribe to Lich Gang. Like it's free. But I meant like, like the subscription on YouTube. The paid one. But yeah, only if you can. Um but yeah, I had a great time watching this video. Um, but yeah, it's been Remarks or RemRoX by YouTube.